Hello and welcome to Finextra. I'm Emily Haller, Cybos 2015, and I'm joined by Rob Hetherington of SAP. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
So everyone is talking about digital, but do they always understand it as the same thing?
I think they have different understandings, Emily, which reflects their areas of interest and focus and so forth. But fundamentally, digital is about four things. It's about how you improve your engagement with customers. It's about how you help those customers engage and interact seamlessly, exchange value seamlessly. It's about how you digitize your processes. And last but by no means least, it's also about how you enable your colleagues to serve customers in a digital world. All of this is clearly underpinned by technology and hence the digital.
Do you think transaction banks are behind the curve in adapting to the digital revolution?
No, I don't actually. I think arguably there's a different curve, but I don't think they're behind a curve. I mean, if you look at the payments industry, clearly a key part of transaction banking, arguably that's the most innovative part of financial services from a digital perspective. You look at the number of new entrants, you look at the interesting new technologies that are being applied, indeed different types of currency being invented. So I think the thing about transaction banking is it is arguably one of the more arcane parts of banking, so it doesn't get the media attention. It's not about what you and I do, it's about what businesses and banks do amongst themselves. But if you look at the level of innovation coming through, for instance in the way that some of these banks are using mobility technology to dematerialize their transactions, I think there's a huge amount of innovation there. We see a lot of interest in banks this week in the area of networks. So how you create communities and how you exchange value across those communities using digital technology. I think that's highly innovative. And then as I've said, in the payments arena, huge amounts of innovation, huge amounts of fintech activity and brand new technologies and currencies being invented.
So if the fintech world is in the seat of digital innovation, do you think banks should be collaborating or competing with the fintech providers?
Well, I think it's and as opposed to either or, and I would underscore the need for collaboration, and I think many banks are doing this already, some to a greater extent than others, and you need only look at your own information service to see, on a daily basis, announcements of banks doing deals with fintech providers, forming partnerships, etc. I think what banks are doing is they're basically saying there's advantage in adopting and embracing some inventions by fintech players and some practices by fintech players, and there's a process that they go through to do this, which starts typically with an association, a partnership, a joint venture, etc., and then may or may not extend all the way through to an acquisition. I think the challenge for banks, frankly, is how they embrace and how they, in effect, apply the fintech technology to their own business models and make that change stick. That's not straightforward for any institution, let alone a bank. But I see almost every bank that I talk to across EMEA, which is my area of responsibility, is one way or the other engaged with fintech players in their local market and in international markets. But I think, the other thing I'd say is that I don't think banks should fear competing with fintech players. I think banks have huge assets that they can leverage and be very successful in their own right. So, just to pick out two or three. Banks are extremely good at processing vast volumes of transactions, messages, etc., at scale in a very secure way. That's a huge asset in this new digital world. To take another example, when it comes to data and customer data, banks are extremely good at managing that in a secure way, and they enjoy a lot of trust from their customers. Frankly, trust that many technology firms and startups, etc., would die for. So actually, banks have huge strengths, and they can compete very effectively in certain areas against fintech players. So I think it's both compete but collaborate, and I think that's a successful model for them to take forward.
Rob, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching.